All right, welcome back to Close Enough Garage yet again. I know I'm actually putting out videos. Today we're going to be melting down some silver, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. I see a lot of people complain about the price of silver, making it very hard to get into this hobby and very hard to want to practice. Well, I have a ton of rings in these little cups here that have all been cut into little tiny pieces so they melt a little bit easier. Stuff that I've practiced with, stuff that I've made, stuff where I've got, I don't need five of a size 12 in one type of ring. I need one or two of them. So I took my excess, I cut it, I melted it down. I've taken a lot of my practice materials and scraps, and I'm getting them ready to melt down too. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and bring you guys in and show you the tools that are involved with it. You're going to spend probably a few $100s in tools. But the ability to melt and recycle and reuse your materials is going to save you many times more than the cost of the tools going into it. The only expensive thing I've found really is oxygen. I'm still using the same box of 20 Mule Team Borax from ages ago. I haven't even refilled my little sour cream container full of it. Oxygen is it. I'm using the same MAP gas tank. It's lasted me forever. Oxygen, I've gone through like 10, 12, 50 of them, and they're, $14 a piece. It does suck a little bit. But most of this, it's all very easily obtainable. Get a lot of it on that website that has everything you could ever need. Or you can get like the gas bottles and stuff like that from your local hardware store. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you in here. I'm not going to talk your ears off. We're going to get right to work because we got a lot of it. So, as you guys know, and as you've seen a dozen times already, I have a ton of things. Pickling pot, ultrasonic cleaner, pneumatic graver with a compressor under the table there, my ball vise, my rolling mills. You don't need all this to melt silver. Even if you're not jeweling or being a jeweler or whatever the hell the term is, you only need a handful of things to melt down silver. So, I've got a cheap graphite mold here, and you can see I prefer using this block right here. I've got my own reasons for that. It's just the most workable and the easiest for me to use. Go ahead and get my jar out here with some finished ingots. So that's what they're going to kind of end up looking like when we're done. I do have a little bit of spillage on this one. I'll cut that off before I start rolling it out, but that's really about it. So the graphite mold will make those. You have a crucible here. This one is pretty heavily used. You can see it's got a glassy layer in there, and I'll show you about that in a moment as well. I have a thing of borax. This is basic 20 Mule Team Borax. There's nothing else done to it. You're basically going to use that to keep your metal clean and keep oxygen out of it and keep it all about as pure as you can get. Now I've got all my scrap I'm cutting up in different containers here. You can grab those if you want, that's fine. For heat, I use a propane torch to kind of preheat everything, just because the gas is cheaper. For this is the most expensive single piece of all of it. It's a blue fire torch. I believe I paid around $100 for this when I started. It's a MAP and oxygen combination torch. And for a small melt like this, it does get up to temperature, and it does do exactly what you need it to do. It's not the quickest process in the world, but hey, you kind of do what you do. Now you're supposed to use a striker with that. I'm a little bit of a dickhead, and I use a Bic lighter. The copper tongs, I use these anytime I handle hot silver going into water. You really only need them when you're putting it into pickling to prevent the contamination of using steel tweezers, but I just use them anytime I put hot silver into anything wet, or if I'm dealing with my pickling and stuff. It's just my way of doing it. Just like with the graphite mold, I never use these two. So I use these pliers to pick the mold up with and flip it over to dump the ingot out. There's, I guarantee, a set of tongs out there that would do the job better. I don't care. This is my way of doing it, and then also as I'm making stuff so I can set it aside quickly, I quench it in my nice glass vase full of purified water here. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a couple of things here. Before I forget, I was talking about the glassy surface there. These are some different size from the same set, just little crucible bowls with a pour slot on them. This is how they look new. Before you use it, you don't want to use an unseasoned bowl or a crucible because the material is going to stick to it. It's not going to flow how it should. So what you do is you just take that borax and you sprinkle it all around the inside of the bowl, and then you get the bowl good and glowing hot with your torches. And it's not widespread on this one. I could have done a better job at seasoning it, but it's been working fine for me. It will coat the inside of that bowl with that glassy surface, and it's going to protect the silver from sticking to your bowl. It's kind of like greasing a pan when you go to cook. So we'll get started on this. I'll show you guys the basics. Yeah, and with this middle mold that produces around a 15-gram ingot, so I've got all my stuff divided up into about 15 grams each. Okay, so admittedly, I don't do everything the safest way. I've got my torch laying here and my bowl at an angle. I'm going to start heating them up that way. I like to preheat it just so my multi-gas torch has less work to do. Now, before I get started with that and I get started showing you guys this stuff, I know some of you, or maybe a lot of you, have never worked a combination torch. So I'm going to reach down here and I'll tell you what I'm doing to start. As I said, you should have a striker. I don't really care. So you go ahead and you turn on your map and your oxygen gas on the bottles. You're going to have a nozzle for each of them. Go ahead and crack them all the way open because your torch is going to do the metering work for you. Now I've got a vise, I don't have a torch holder, but then you've got your handles here. One is going to be your map gas, one's going to be your oxygen. You're going to start cracking the map gas open, and you're going to light it. It's going to give you a nice orange flame like that. Now you get that flame about around there. You start cracking open your oxygen's going to calm that flame down. You focus it. And I got too much map, so I'm going to turn that down a bit. And actually right about there is going to be perfect. You want around a 1/4 inch long blue point inside of that flame there. So now to shut it off, you're going to do the inverse. You're going to work your oxygen first. Shut your O2 off. Shut your map off. The end of this torch is going to be very hot, so put it in your vise or torch rest to chill for now. And that's basically how you work that. It's not a very difficult tool. It just takes a little bit of a feel and a little bit of getting used to. So as you can see, I've got my propane torch propped up and my bowl propped up here. It likes to whistle while it works. I got the lights turned down low. We might put on some Barry Manilow later, but for now, I'm going to keep letting this torch hit this crucible here. You can see how it's starting to glow in some places. I'm going to give it some more time doing this. Let it start heating it from around the bottom to the middle and on up to the top until it's good and glowing. So as you can see now, this is glowing pretty well. I've got some of the borax actually dripping in there. So while that's cooking, I'm going to go ahead and throw a respirator on. I have found that from the one time I didn't do this with a respirator, I had my face right up in this shit. If you're a little ways away, it's fine. But I was having some hard times breathing out there. You probably don't want to inhale this stuff. So, we've got the respirator on. While I'm putting this on, I'm going to drop another hint that, for different types of metals, sterling silver, pure silver, different carats of gold, you're going to want a different crucible so that way your materials don't mix and match. So, alright, we're going to shut this off. It's pretty hot in there now. We'll set that good and level and set that torch out of the way here. We will get the combination torch started up. Now, a lot of this is going to be more heating and more tedium, so I will probably skip through quite a bit of it. Give it a little more map, a little more oxygen. We're good and crispy here. So I'm also going to heat up the graphite mold. Now, a lot of people like to really heat it, but what I've found is if you just cook it until you can see the moisture coming out of it, that's going to be about good enough. The silver does cool pretty quickly, but when I'm doing multiple batches like this, the subsequent batches are going to go ahead and work a lot quicker. Keep that mold hotter. Now I'm putting this in here. We're going to heat it all up really good and glowing. And this is a much hotter torch than the propane, even at this range and all that. But still going to take a little while for this first pour, this first heating. So I'm probably going to skip through this and pick it up on another frame, or we're going to go ahead and just speed this section of the video up. So crucible's good and hot now. I actually skipped over the first pour because it takes so much more to heat it up with everything still getting warm at that point. I didn't want to make it too long of a process. But you can see we're glowing pretty good in here. I got my ingot molds getting nice and hot, so I'm going to just take my next batch and pour it straight in. These are all chunks of rings. Now, some of this will be sped up to save time, so you're not sitting here getting bored out of your mind. But we're already beginning to see some of the thinner pieces of metal and pieces around the edge melt. I'm going to speed it up right here. Another pour and show it from a different angle, but we have a nice little bubble gliding on that molten borax there, and this is pure molten silver. I'm going to start heating up where it pours and directing the heat over the silver too, so I can keep that melted and boiling. But I can heat up the metal's exit point so it doesn't start to cool and solidify before we even get it out of the crucible. That's getting good and glowing hot there. I'm going to make another pass around the silver. Watch it boil, watch it start to shed that borax and start to become itself. And we're going to go ahead, quick motion, and pour. I didn't get it all out. We're going to have to redo this one, but that's fine. I'll be able to move the camera and show you guys the next angle. So out of that ingot that I just made and said I was going to re-pour, I've re-poured it. It's only taking about 2 or 3 minutes to get that heat back into it. And now you see we have our boiling rolling ball of silver. So I'm going to get it close to the edge here, and I'm going to start heating it and its exit point at the same time. Bring some more heat over the silver itself. You want it to look like this. You want it to look like it's boiling and rolling around a bit. Get it really good and hot there. Start really superheating the pour point. I want that to be glowing like you see there. And it's also putting a lot of heat into the silver too. So we're going to go ahead and give it a second pour here in a moment. And I'll show you how to handle that, and how to save a little bit of time when you're doing multiple batches like this. Because as I said, we're still only doing about 15 grams at a time. That's just under a half of a troy ounce. And those are just my chosen size for bars to work with. You can go larger or smaller, whatever you need, but alright. There we go. We have a nice full ingot there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the next batch in and get that heating as I work with this. So I'll take that, flip my ingot out, pick it up with the copper, make sure there's none of that gravel in it. And you can hear me quench it in the water there. And that's what we have. There we have 7 beautiful ingots there. What we've ended up with is about 106 grams. That's going to translate to just under 3.5 troy ounces. We're at about 3.4 ounces. The problem is they are not all beautiful. About half of them have large deposits of the borax and other impurities in them. The way I'm going to solve that is I've got a mix in a 1.25 crock pot of Sparex number 2. That's a sodium bisulfate dry granular acid compound. It's got a little bit more available acid than sulfuric acid does. It's in just a basic crock pot. You can see there's residue spilled all over and all that, but set on warm, this gives me about 140 degrees temperature for it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to gather these up here. 5, 6, 7. And I'll just throw them all in there. Go shoot a few games of pool over there. And it should clean all of that up. So that is basically all there is to it. It is a bit of a process, but if you want to practice and keep practicing in a little bit more expensive metal like silver and actually get to know what you're working with, I've been working all kinds of rings with the pure silver and learning how to set gems. So because I'm learning how to set gems, and that is a whole nother process on its own, I'm going through a lot of material. Now I'll take these ingots and I'll start rolling them into my own square stock or whatever other shape that I need, and working jewelry up from there, learning what I'm doing, learning my trade, and advancing as an artisan and a jeweler. So it makes it easier. It makes it a little bit less worrisome about practicing with silver when you can just go ahead and melt your scrap down and start with brand new ingots. I'm going to let those cook for a while. You don't want to pickle your soldered pieces for too long. It could permeate into the solder and cause problems, but those ingots there, they can cook for days and they'll be just fine. That acid compound's not going to remove any silver, but it will remove all those impurities. That borax, that glass beading that's on the surface of those from me using too much of it in the crucible, that will be eaten away by the acid compound, and it will leave just pure clean silver underneath and bring your mix back down to a 0.999. So as usual, hopefully we have helped somebody else today, or at the very least, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Now get out there and as usual, share it to everybody you know. Like, subscribe, do your thing, help me grow, and y'all have a great day. Stay safe out there.